freak. Your outcome's looking pretty bleak. Thunder booms and lightning crashes, leaving boots filled with ashes. As we lay you down to rest, we read the pages of the Dead Man's Digest.
Welcome everyone to Day 7 of the Dead Man's Digest's look back through Halloween Horror Night Orlando history. This episode is brought to you by the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast, and we will continue our look back in time with Halloween Horror Night 17, which took place in 2007. This year's event was known as Carnival of Carnage and had the tagline "Choose Thy Fear" and featured Freddy, Jason, Leatherface and Jack as its icons. It took place over 23 nights and was once again back in Universal Studios, Florida. A single night admission ticket this year would cost you $64.95. The houses found at this year's event were A Nightmare on Elm Street, Dreamwalkers, which was in Soundstage 23. Freddy Krueger chases you through 1428 Elm Street in a nightmare you can't wake up from, because you are already awake. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Flesh Wounds, in the Earthquake queue. Trapped in the Hewitt family home, you are hunted by the chainsaw-wielding Leatherface and his family of freaks. Friday the 13th, Camp Blood in the Jaws queue. A hazing of new camp counselors in a barn at Camp Crystal Lake turns into a bloodbath when Jason Voorhees returns. The Thing Assimilation in a Sprung tent. A secret facility in Florida studying the biohazardous remains of Arctic Outpost 31 accidentally unleashes something. Dead Silence, The Curse of Mary Shaw in Soundstage 22. The vengeful ghost of the ventriloquist searches a decrepit theatre for fresh tongues to tear out. Psychoscarapy, Home for the Holidays in Soundstage 23. Visions of sugar plums turn into horrific holiday nightmares when a transport bus overturns in a quiet neighbourhood, unleashing the violent inmates of Shady Brook Hospital. Vampire Bloodbath at Nazarman's. A rave rages in Club Vampire where the bass beats hide the screams in this carnal orgy of blood. And Jack's Funhouse in Clownovision, which was in a Sprung tent. This jacked up funhouse comes at you with more crazed, colourful clowns than you can shake a kid at. Carnival of Carnage featured one giant scare zone rather than several small ones with different themes. This centralised the overall carnival theme of the event to make it consistent and cohesive. To add to the area, a full-sized Ferris wheel was installed in front of Men in Black. Scare actors drove around in bumper cars, and the motorcycles used at the event were modified to look like crazed carousel horses. Jack the Clown has plumbed the depths of his deprivation to transform all of Halloween Horror Nights into the midway of the bizarre, a spine-tingling multi-sensory spectacle. See such sinister sideshows as the Rat Lady, the Chainsaw Drill Team, Motor Maniacs, Killer Carnies, and the Troupe Macabre. Shows that year were Jack's Carnival of Carnage at the Hollywood stage. Jack's back and ready to show you the sinister center ring. Step right up and see if his hapless volunteers have the guts to survive Jack's warped carnival and to stop the zombie uprising. Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure in the Fear Factor Live Theatre. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, a tribute on the Beetlejuice stage. There's a light over at Frankenstein's Place. Join the wildest group this side of Transylvania as they present a live tribute to the cult classic film. And Freak Show on the Animal Actors stage. Bizarre, hysterical, astonishing, freakishly freaking freaky, this ever-changing variety of freaks push the limits of the definition of humanity. The last event we will cover on this show is Halloween Horror Night 18, Reflections of Fear, which featured the tagline, "I dare you to say it one more time," and had the icon Bloody Mary, also known as Dr. Mary Agana. This event took place over 23 nights and was again inside Universal Studios, Florida. A single night admission ticket that year would cost you $69.99. The houses that year were Body Collectors Collections of the Past in Soundstage 20, With their history shrouded in legend, the collectors have been assembling a collection of untold numbers of souls for centuries, using mass murders and plagues to cover their ghoulish activities. These ghoulish artisans are constantly searching for the next specimen to add to their macabre museum. But when there is no plague, or Jack the Ripper, there are only the collectors, collecting. Creatures, in Downstage 22. Creatures straight from the cover of Atomic Comics' Strange Tales burst forth to rampage and massacre the backwoods locals. Join Johnny, Cleet, Jim Deedle and the rest of the gang at the Butchered Buck as they fight off this terrifying invasion of creatures from who knows where. Dead exposure in a sprung tent. Charlie McPherson, a noted tabloid photographer, has always wanted something more in life than photographing celebrities at their worst. One night, Charlie gets his wish, when the city he resides in becomes overrun with flesh-eating zombies. Trapped in his downtown loft with bloodthirsty zombies just outside, Charlie captures the last horror-filled moments of his life on film, and you are with him every step of the way. Doomsday, in the disaster queue. Post-apocalyptic Scotland breeds madness as the Reaper virus ravages the populace, leaving those left behind after the plague to survive by any means necessary. Do you have what it takes to make it out alive? Based on the blockbuster Universal Pictures release. The Hallow, in a sprung tent. Where do the traditions we observe each Halloween come from? It is said that every Halloween within the blackest parts of the forest, Samhain, the lord of the underworld, lives again, and the souls of the damned beckon you. For if you journey deep enough, you will see that Samhain's traditions are trapped within the Hallow. Interstellar Terror, in Soundstage 20. Prided among the scientific community as the greatest achievement in the history of mankind, the NSO Columbus 1492 is the first manned spacecraft to leave the relative safety of our solar system. When the ship disappears for several years and then reappears just outside the orbit of our moon, your rescue team is sent to investigate. They find that an artifact the crew brought on board causes destruction and forces you to witness interstellar terror. Reflections of Fear, in the Jaws queue. Noted psychiatrist Dr. Mary Agana believed that if a subject was constantly forced to experience what they feared the most, then over time they would become numb to the idea of actually fearing it. Unfortunately for us, Dr. Mary's fear is that of death, and the only way for her to cure herself is to watch the light leave your eyes as your soul leaves your body. And finally, Scary Tales, Once Upon a Nightmare, which was in the Parade Warehouse. Find yourself once upon a nightmare as you wind your way across a landscape filled with cherished fairy tales as they have never been told before. The evil queen's scribes have written new chapters on terror where princesses don't get saved, children don't find their way out of the wood, and there is no escape from the rabbit hole. The scare zones that year consisted of American Gothic in Production Central. Some legends allow a simple man or woman to remain immortal. Some deeds, so dark, take a simple person and transform them into law. America's past has been filled with these dark deeds, sordid characters, and unbelievable acts of horror. Reflect upon your own mortality as you venture through history with the infamous Lizzie Borden as your guide. Asylum in Wonderland on Hollywood Boulevard. Stepping through the looking glass, you find yourself in the depths of Wonderland, journeying through the nightmare that Alice couldn't escape. The wonderful figures you once believed to inhabit this fantastical place have been peering into the looking glass themselves and have come face to face with Bloody Mary. Fractured Tales in Kid Zone. Enter your favourite fairy tales and find out what happens when Grimm goes wrong. Witness these stories through the lens of their reality. Look closely and you will find the terrible truths that lie just below the sweet appearance of these classic tales. You will learn a thing or two about yourself, but by then, it may be too late. The Path of the Wicked on the Plaza of the Stars. What if the Wicked Witch had won? Because every story has more than a few sides. View Oz as it has never been seen before. In this reflection, the Wicked Witch of the West has done away with Dorothy and seized control of merry old land of Oz for herself. The Schoolhouse at Mel's Drive-In. Mr. Renshaw's class has always been good. Mr. Renshaw's class has never broken the rules. Mr. Renshaw's class has always been perfect little angels. All of that changes when the kids from the schoolhouse cut class. The children of the quaint town of Carey, Ohio, are out to teach everyone that their version of trick or treat may be the difference between life and death. And finally, Streets of Blood body collectors on the streets of New York. An ancient group known simply as the Body Collectors has been devoted to the collection and sacrificing of bodies for millennia. They have escaped notoriety by using plagues, wars, serial killings and mass disappearances as the cover for their collecting. These mysterious, quiet gentlemen are now in Victorian London covering their heinous acts with Jack the Ripper as their scapegoat. But there is no Ripper, there are only collectors. Collecting. The shows that could be found at that year's event were Brian Brushwood, which took place on the Animal Actors stage. Based on his popularity as part of last year's Freak Show, Brian Brushwood returns, but this time with his own show. Full of the most intense, riveting and disturbing feats you've ever seen performed live, this year Brian will take his performance to a whole new level, presenting some of his signature acts in his own show. Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure, again in the Fear Factor Live Theatre, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show, a tribute on the Beetlejuice stage. And that will conclude this trip through Halloween Horror Nights history. We wanted to give HHNcrypt.com a plug for supplying the info once again, and if you did enjoy this look back in time, then join us again tomorrow for another 2 years of Halloween Horror Nights. So until tomorrow, sleep tight, Internet.